The Reset.
You're listening to The Reset with Rain and Remixx.
Live every Wednesday.
You're listening to The Reset with Rain and
at
Remixx.
6:30 p.m.
You're listening to The Reset with Rain and Remixx. So stay tuned, because we just getting started.
On The Reset, live every Wednesday at 6:30 p.m.
I have to say, as a pop culture, our guest today, without further ado, his name is Z, and he got a lot of information that we finna edutain you with. Don't get it twisted. I'm not alone. I got Gypsy Rain, your hip hop culture specialist, up in here too. How you doing? How you doing?
I'm doing real good. Real excited about tonight's show. I know we got some questions for Z, whose full name is Zion. We call him Z, and he is, we could say, the head honcho behind the movement Protection Against Search and Seizure, and that's P.A.S.S, and the acronym stands for Protection Against Search and Seizure.
Wow.
And they address the community by asking, are you frustrated by the senseless acts of police conduct on the street, which often lead to injury and the death of black people and people of color? Did you know that by changing outdated policies, we can make a change? To make a long story short. So that's what today's show is about. Tell a friend, you know what I'm saying? Share this link with somebody. We appreciate you just using that index finger to press play and get edutained, like you said, through this great edutainment from your hip-hop culture specialist, Rain and Remixx. You know what I'm going to do right now, Remixx? I'm going to give Z a call so we can get this conversation started expeditiously.
Like, pew!
Right, let's do it.
I'm slightly slowed off, but I'm very glad to be here.
Yes, we are very glad to be here.
Edutainment brought to you in a life form that you probably couldn't even imagine. As we don't wait and we don't hesitate. We got him on the phone. Ain't nothing gonna stop us. This here movement that this young man Z and his team has created, I'm proud to be a platform sitter where you're able to come edutain us with the information you got. You know, I'm proud to even know you, bro. Like, this is Z, you know, and I'm gonna be excited because I was gonna call it the entertainment that you gave me. Nah, man, you shared that information with me, bro, and I haven't been the same since. So I'm honored. I'm sorry, Gypsy Rain. I'm for real, like, Gypsy Rain, we've been throwing it back and forth that have you had an altercation with the police? And you know, me being a black male, that sit with me a little weird because I've had altercations with the police, and if I didn't, like, you wasn't there with me when I told you my altercation, you wouldn't even believe it. Like, for real. So to that conversation to arise and have you in there too, the same conversation. Z has a program where he educates you on the laws. So please tell me more about P.A.S.S.
All right, awesome. So my name is Zion, and I am the chief advisor for P.A.S.S, and that stands for Protection Against Search and Seizure. And the name says it all. And what we look to do is, at the end of the day, we want to change the culture of policing in America, and the only way we know to do that first is by enlightening people and allowing them to understand what policing is. We like to say, when it comes to policing, no one seems to understand what it is or how it works. But you think about this, guys. When you sat down and played checkers, chess, football, Uno, spades, any game or any sport or anything that you've allowed yourself to be a part of, you first learned the rules. So when it comes to policing, what we're saying is, how in the world can you expect to change it if you don't know what got it? If you don't know what the foundation or the rules are, then you're not going to be impactful. when it comes to changing it. So we like to bring a different nuance to what policing is and allowing our people, for the most part, to understand how we can actually get real policy reform. And we want our constituents and individuals to know that we didn't just pull this out the bottom end, of our anatomy. We've done the research. We've been to the Justice Department, and we allowed them to show us, what they say, this thing is functioned by or how it operates.
When you say we, not to cut you off, Z. When you say we, you speak of your firm, the group of people you with?
Well, yeah, actually, yes. Within P.A.S.S, as far as our collective, group of doing research and or just looking, at this information. At the end of the day, we kind of stand alone.
When y'all established this?
This was back in 2016, right? Like right after the things with Mike Brown, took place. I had an interest at that point to look into it because I saw on the news the journalists and the news people, they were shoving microphones in people's face saying, "What do you want?" And it was like people couldn't articulate what they want. They would just say stuff like, "We want justice. We want accountability. We want change." But those are broad terms. You have to define, what that is. You have to spell out what justice looks like. And I'm going to tell you, an officer being fired or an officer going to jail, that's not justice because nothing changes.
Right.
That is true.
Yeah.
Nothing changes.
Want to show.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So we got to dial back. And first, we have to allow people to understand what guides policing. Once we understand what guides it, now we can move into effectually change it. Now we can deal with true policy reform. And I'm going to tell you something. You have every other organization out here, I don't care who you're talking to or which one you pick, but they're all focused on use of force and deadly force. Have you heard that? Have you seen that, as a topic for policing reform?
No.
Wow.
Okay, so you have it? Well,
no.
Okay. Well, all right, well, those are the hot topics, that the majority of initiatives out here are pushing. Like the city of Atlanta right now, they're focused on policy reform centered around use of force and deadly force. And guys, I'm just going to say that's kind of putting the cart before the horse, right? Because our issue is use of force and deadly force, but there's an overlooked premise called the stop, right? And the stop is when they pull up on us. It's called an investigative stop. Our problem is the stop, because that's where you get beat, that's where you get shot, that's where you get tased. Now, if we can understand the stop, we can now understand how to control deadly force, use of force, because if you regulate the stop, you then have a better opportunity to regulate use of force or deadly force, because without the stop, none of those things can happen.
Mr. Z.
Yes.
Do you understand the stop?
Of course. I mean, okay, so it's a lot to break down, but let me say this. You have two types of stops. You have the investigative stop and you have the custodial stop, right? So 99% of the stops that happen out here on the street, they're called investigative stops. Now, we're under the impression that when the police pull up, they're just all powerful, whatever they say, it goes. But our information and research based on what guides policing, it speaks to the point that investigative stops have great limitations. And we're trying to understand and or say, why have these limitations not been explained to the public? Why have they not been explained to our communities? And one, the reason being, with us being ignorant to the fact, it then allows for policing to continue, in the manner that it does, because it's a money-making institution. They do that. So with the stop, the first thing we have to understand, let me go back. We have to look at what guides police. Have you ever thought about what guides police?
No, but that's a good go back and go to that.
Okay.
I think what guides police, I think would be what you mean, like when they're on duty and what drives them when they're out and about. Is that what you mean when you say?
Let me just jump in and say what we think is irrelevant. We have to look at, for example, like what our Justice Department said. Let me tell you what they said. Now we can go off of that. They said, policing is governed by the Constitution. In this case, we will be talking about the Fourth Amendment because it was created in part to deal with abuses of police power on the street. And then they also said the everyday practices of policing can be found in greater detail within the court decision. So that means we have to now look at case law. Case law being cases like the Terry versus Ohio, the Heibel versus Nevada. So when you look at these cases, you then understand the dynamic to how the stop is lawfully supposed to run and or go. So when you're on that football field, and I believe, Remixx, you say you play football, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we understand with football, dude, if you running down that field and you hit that white line, everybody understands for knowing the rule, it's clear, no matter how quick you get into that end zone, we're going to call it back because you stepped on the line. All right, so now that we understand that with what guides policing, we're looking at the Constitution, we're looking at the court cases, we're talking about, the Fourth Amendment. So now we can go into these court cases and we can see, so when there's an investigative stop, then they can't just stop you just because they had a hunch.
No, wait a minute.
They can't just compel you, to answer all these questions. There's even something called non-threatening characters that's associated with it. And it's interesting because whenever people hear that word sound, non-threatening character, your mind just goes to the demeanor of someone. Right. But a non-threatening character has nothing to do with the demeanor. It has everything to do with the style of stop, with them saying the stop itself is non-threatening. So we have to understand what made it non-threatening that we can use this to our advantage. But because we're not aware of these nuances, and because, the attorneys and, the other individuals that, are supposed to, be, I guess, enlightened with these things, they've overlooked these things. So we're saying to individuals, guys, we got to go and we got to pull up the SOP, which is the standard operating procedure for law enforcement centered around the stop. And we got to deconstruct it, tear it down. Once we tear it down, we can rebuild it with all the things that are in these cases that they overlooked, the things that fit the limitation that benefit us. This is where we're going to get real change from. But you don't hear anybody talking like this, within our communities, on the news, and the governmental agencies have avoided us. And, they pretty much tried not to have this conversation. Why? Because it shuts them down. It shifts the power from their handle or control, and it then gives us, an ability to have some say. So I sent you guys a file just a few minutes ago on legitimacy. Did you get it? And if you did, I'm going to ask you to pull it up. And I just want you to read that real quick, because what I'm saying right now slides into what legitimacy is and why we need to understand the importance, of what guides policing, and how we can actually have control over policing, the thing that we've been asking for, and everybody has been trying to make us feel like it just can't happen.
Okay,
so,
it says legitimacy is the extent to which the community believes that police actions are appropriate, proper, and just. Police.
All right, so let's just stop right there. Mm-hmm. All right, so first of all, it's based on what we think is appropriate, proper, and just, right?
Right.
So I've always said, when you see that unarmed man get shot, is that proper?
No, it's not appropriate.
No, it's not proper when you get caught up in the racial profiling. Is that just?
No.
Right.
Okay, so based on legitimacy, it's like, how have we allowed ourselves to be pulled into these instances where we see these things every day, and they're under, the assumption that we're okay with these things? Go ahead, read the next part for legitimacy for me.
Police policy and procedure are based on legitimacy, which is based on people's consent of the policy or procedure. So again, in both, we're missing the people in the community.
The consent.
These things are happening.
We don't know about legitimacy. We don't know how legitimacy is supposed to function or work. So we bring this information into the community, one, to educate the community, and then to empower the community to know that what they're doing is correct. When we say we can control policing, we do it through the concept called legitimacy. We do it through understanding the court cases that explain the greater limitation to policing, which they intentionally left out. But when we deconstruct the policy, we can add these things back into the policy, which will give us the promise of protection that the Fourth Amendment says we're supposed to have based on protection against search and seizure. But let's look at this. When you look at legitimacy, it tells you the policies and procedures are based on legitimacy, which it's pinned on our consent. Is that what it said or no?
It says based on people's consent.
And we are the people in this case.
I was about to say.
Right.
Right? So all I'm telling you is we're talking about policy, procedure, and we're trying to understand why is it not working. But right there in legitimacy, it says it's what we think is proper, appropriate, and just. So now what we're telling individuals is we're creating this legal defense fund. We're creating this think tank. And the reason for the think tank is so that we can hire the professionals and the experts that we want, and we can get them in there and break down, or as we say, deconstruct, these SOPs. And then we can rebuild them centered around legitimacy, because at the end of the day, no one can fix policing but us, because the one that's impacted by it, right?
Wow.
I know what's wrong with it. You know what's wrong with it. And I'm just going to say this and be frank. The majority of our Caucasian counterparts, they don't see an issue with policing. So trying to ask them to fix it is not going to give us the resolve that we're looking for. Furthermore, history has shown that their fixing it only leads us to be collateral damage in the years running down the line. That doesn't work. We can't keep doing the same thing thinking we're going to get some different results. So here we are bringing a different style of information, or what some have said is a novel approach to changing the culture of policing in America. And the first step is education.
Yeah.
Because if a person doesn't understand these things, like one individual within the law enforcement profession, he told me as I was designing programs to present better training for law enforcement, they looked at me and said, well, what difference, is it going to make if the people don't know? And it was like that rung a bell or struck a chord, with me. And I did an about face, and I started more to design the program towards educating everyday people, because we're the ones that do not understand policing. We're the ones that left on the outside.
Right. And with that being said, speaking of everyday people, which many of our listeners are, I wouldn't want to end today's show without talking about, say somebody got pulled over this evening, and we don't wish that on anybody. And what are some 101 basics that you can give to us now with layman's term that could be helpful? Because I'm sure that's what's on people's mind, because with the programming and how we were brought up, and with the TV and how police is portrayed on television and everywhere in movies, there's an automatic intimidation that we're under. All of a sudden, this person, I hate to, that's how I see it, that's how I see it, a community, so is there anything that you can advise? Because I know they used to pass out, some information to young black men on what to do. Is there something you can share?
Let me say, it's inappropriate for me to advise, anyone. More importantly, we focus on what it means to educate individuals and to speak about the experience. Now, one thing the majority of people say is, wow, at P.A.S.S, your information is great. And we like the way it sounds, but what if the officer doesn't know? What if the officer doesn't understand? And that's the void and/or the problem that we're striving to fix right now, which centers around what they call bridging the gap of information between police and people. Now, I've always said, for those of you who have heard that term, I'm real big on broad terms, and I really had to get down and find out what in the world does that mean, because they say it, but they do not give any context to it. Because my thing has always been, how can you bridge the gap of information and no one has no one has taken time to point out what information we're going to scrutinize in order to bridge the gap? They just left us hanging.
Right.
So, with that being said, we have to bring ourselves on one accord to say we're going to focus on what guides police. We're going to look at the stop, and we're going to implement and/or institute these processes and get individuals, on the same accord. Because right now, everybody doing anything. And anybody's doing everything, and it's like nothing is making sense. So I could sit up here today and say, well, when he pulls you over, one of the best practices, I do is I may not say anything when he says where you're going, what you're doing, but I do understand within a certain context that I may be obligated to identify myself. Now we have to qualify what does identify myself mean, because a number of us have been led to think when they say identify yourself that you got to pull out, some state-issued ID, when I can show you in these court cases that they're saying identification is a mere name disclosure. So we have to wrestle with that, because some people won't feel comfortable doing a mere name disclosure, because now they're saying the police officer is getting jacked up. He acting like he on that juice, right? So we need to push more of the education. And again, this is why we're setting up this legal defense fund, because I know people want to see how it works. And by the grace of the Creator, I can't wait to show you how it works. But I need that legal defense fund in order to do it. Okay? I need that think tank in order to do it. And the think tank, again, is the thing that we're using to put the information together to make it solid, so that we're all seeing, and/or saying the same thing. And I'm going to tell you this. The governmental agencies from the city and, all of these nonprofits, it's like they say they want change, But when we bring this degree of change to them, they all close the purse up. And the reason why they close the purse up is because we're taking the power away from the government. We're putting the power back in the hands of the people. And these individuals are sitting up here making compromises with these agencies and with these other individuals. And we're saying, as I said in one meeting with the mayor and the chief, and they were like, okay, so we got to compromise. And I'm like, guys, we can't compromise the truth. We can't compromise justice. But that's what they're used to.
Right.
Wow. They're used to it. So they avoid us. They shun us. Nobody's giving us, any funding, but nobody is talking like we're talking. Nobody is showing, what we're showing. Nobody is standing on the promise of protection. I mean, all people are doing, right now is, for the most part, they're just milking the cause. And they have no resolution. They have nothing, but a bunch of words. That's all they're doing. But we're asking people to get behind us. We're asking people, to assist us with setting up the curriculum, putting the training modules, in place. And I can't harp enough with the legal defense fund. So that means I can go out, into the street, and we can challenge law enforcement based on the standard operating procedure, for the stop. And the moment they cross the line, we got the attorneys in place to, to link up the charges. That's the other thing we're looking to do. We're looking to put the law enforcement profession on trial.
Okay.
And the way we do that is by establishing the SOP, allowing them to see what it is we're doing. We let them know. We don't have to hide anything. We let them know exactly what we're doing. And we say, hey, we're going to be in your area. We're going to be in your jurisdiction.
Okay,
right?
Mr. Z. Well, check this out, Mr. Z. Real in layman's terms, you just told me that to make this change happen, you need to have the funding so you can have the lawyer representation when you need it. The funding so when you can get this think tank to bounce your idea off the other thinkers to make sure that the idea is solid. So how, Mr. Z, how would somebody help you on your path? Yo, how would they do that? How would they, people, they listen, they want to help you. You see how I felt when I introduced you, bruh? They finna feel like that now. Z. Everybody feel like that now that you done gave us this education. Bruh, come on, man. How they gonna help you, Joe? Come on.
So I would say, not to be premature, but we're about 30 days away from launching our fundraiser. And with our fundraiser, we're targeting a minimum of $3 million to do the fundraiser. $2 million will go towards the legal defense fund, and $1 million will go towards the think tank. And we will use some other resources to set up the curriculum and the training modules. And that would be the first step, or the second step within. We can jump this thing off. Again, our first step would be centered around making sure people are educated, with this. One thing I want to do is make certain that the information stays free, right? Because I don't need any one of our people feeling like they can't get it because they don't have $5. Okay. So this information is always going to be free, to the citizens and our people. As far as me doing, any training, we're asking for folks to support us on the administrative end so that we can file the cases we need to file, so that, we can set up the community policing venues that, we need to set up, from the standpoint of education, because people have no idea, what the 10 principles of community policing are. People have no idea that you can truly police yourself. Okay? People have no idea that through the concept of defunding the police, we can allocate those funds to the segment of individuals that say they want to police themselves. So that means we can create jobs.
You said the police got principals?
Yes, they have you have the 10 principles for community policing, and then you have the 6 pillars of U.S. policing. Wow. These two things kind of work. They kind of work together. And all I'm saying is, I was at one point even talking about I need to come up with a zero tolerance policy, only to find they already got one. Okay, but it's like they're not using it. They're not implementing it because we're not even aware of it. There's no need for them to do these things. Wow. So, we are looking to empower people with real information. And I say to individuals, I've been doing this for a very long time, and I've had a number of encounters, with law enforcement. I've never been beat, shot. I've never been tased. Nothing violent has ever happened because of the compensation I gave the law enforcement. It just put them on their toes, right? And that's what they're not used to. They're normally used to us being agitated, going through all of these emotions, and we're just trying to say, guys, you really don't have to do all of that. But still, at the end of the day, they do not have the power that we've been led to think, that they do. And I can't wait to show people the information that backs it up. But you just read legitimacy. And you just saw that legitimacy, it's a concept that the policy and procedure built around. And then it said that's built and or based on you. The issue is you've never had a chance to speak to it. They set up proxy organizations such as advisory boards and oversight committees. Guys, these people work for them. Right. So they're rubber stamping, these things. So we're establishing a totally separate, entity that truly speaks to it. And we're saying no more are you guys going to put a proxy in our place or act like this is our voice. We're not going to have it no more.
Right. And then when you look into the community, it seems as if we're, I don't want to say forced into that position, but we do have that platform based on our statistics and all the things happening daily between police officers and, like we said, people of color. Right. And I also want to add, if I may, also people of who are, I guess, can I say, white? I don't want to say non-color, but also this is even this education, this lack of education spills out into the white communities as well. But we mostly see them knowing and understanding, or just getting the favor that we don't get. We see that a lot too, but we see that in our media. We see that in our movies. This is something that we're programmed to go along with. But once we get, I think your main component, which is the free component, is a very strong part of, like you just said, you want it to remain free. It has
to be free.
Education is everything, because a lot of people, they don't know what you said this evening. They don't know about that.
Man.
Right.
And like you said,
it has to remain free. And I've had a number of individuals try to convince me, to put a price tag on it, or they'll say, oh, you cheapen the information. And I'm like, no. The Most High gave me this information. It was given freely. I got to give it freely. At the end of the day, we have a problem. The problem needs to stop. At this point, only we, are interested in truly making it stop. So I can't put a price tag on that. But I can ask individuals to help me with the logistics.
See, it's people like you that people should be admiring as a role model. It's people like you that furthered your education, that took the time to read the book, to learn it, to grasp it, to break it down for yourself so you can catch it, so you can share it with somebody else. That's hard to do. And I thank you for your time and your efforts, bro.
Z, I see some other stuff.
Thanks to the creator.
No doubt.
Right, because I've seen some other, speaking of creator, things that you have created, and other topics that you cover. So how can the listeners follow you on social media?
Yes, please go to P.A.S.S is leading the way. That's P.A.S.S ISLEADINGTHEWAY. P.A.S.S is leading the way. And guys, P.A.S.S stands for Protection Against Search and Seizure.
Okay.
P.A.S.S is leading the way.
The name says it on.
Man.
And that's on Instagram. Is that the same way to find you on Facebook as well?
Yes, Instagram and Facebook.
Okay, because we definitely got to continue this conversation, and we're going to get back with you. I'm going to think really close to when you launch, so we can discuss more and try to get that information out to more people and continue our series of, is the American Dream a nightmare, Z? What do you think? Is the American Dream a nightmare? And there's no right or wrong answer or anything. It's just, we just tapping in.
Okay, so the American Dream has definitely been a nightmare. However, when we wake up, we can then benefit from the reality.
Bruh.
Right? So this is where we are. Right now, it's about really getting individuals to open their eyes and see, as Malcolm X said, we've been hoodwinked. And I want to say this right here. I encounter brothers every day that say things to me like, I like what you're doing, but I'm scared. These are grown men.
Right.
I talked to one just yesterday. And, he pretty much said, I'm just afraid. And, when you get into stuff like this, they start talking about how you end up dead, get shot, get beaten. I'm like, guys, we cannot, as grown men, we can no longer allow that to be the thing that prevent us for making, the right choices, doing the right things.
That's
we got to
right.
stand up for this, especially when it moves things without a gun in your hand. We're talking about the power of the pen right now.
Okay, you better read that, get educated so we can further develop what we already got going on. Without education, how we gonna even know is the right word you use, because we've been educated to know, because that's another word, how to use the knowledge that we obtained from somebody else. See, I remember when we first met, I knew that our friendship was going to be pleasant and fruitful. I ain't know you was going to come with this here, this what I've been doing, Remixx, your Gypsy Ran, y'all check it out. Bro, you floored me with this one, bro. You did.
Right, because when that's part of waking up, being floored, get slammed a couple times with new information, and we definitely appreciate you. I got a couple more questions to ask you. On your journey, what has been your greatest resource that has worked well and made things easier for you?
My greatest resource. I think the Creator has been my greatest resource, because it's like a lot of people, they give me credit, and I'm saying, guys, you have no idea just what it means to be led, because how I put my hands on certain things, or how all of this, came together. Sure. I just say to folks, I'm not that smart, but I realize that I'm an instrument, at this point in time. So I'm allowing myself to be used for that reason. So the Most High is my greatest resource.
Great. And shows like this remind me why I have created this platform. It was for myself, so that I could talk with great people like you, Z. And it was a pleasure to meet you. And Remixx and I look forward to more events. We got some things that we like you to be a part of, so we can get this word out, hopefully like in a pamphlet form. And like I said before, to the right market. Well, there's several markets, but we need the people, urban areas, Remixx and I dealing in entertainment. We're dealing with the young people, and it's great for them to have this information and be able to grow with it, because I know your journey is going to be a long one. And like I said, we are a pleasure to be a part of it. So I guess after that, I'm looking forward to talking with you again before your campaign. And I wanted to tell you one thing that the creator told me to tell you. Remember one thing, and because I see you walk on faith, obviously, and that was your greatest resource. Remember, it only takes one. Because I hear your numbers, and they're right there in your reaches. What you're going to need for this program is right there in your reaches. We know this. And I just wanted to share that with you, give you that word. It only takes one person to believe in what you're doing. I'm talking about financially now, and I'm talking about the $3 million. And we're glad and we're proud of what you're doing. We look forward to talking to you again.
Okay.
You have a good night.
Thank you very much.
All right, Z?
Thank you very much. I appreciate you guys for having me, on your show. And I do want to set some time up to where I can take you through one of the training modules so you can have an even closer look at what we're trying to open people up to. We have real learning objectives, and we're just saying this is what we need if we want real reform, if we want something that speaks to our needs, if we want something that we put our hand on, this is what we got to do. Thank you all.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right, Z, we all at you.
And so that's it, listeners. That's what it is. And so you might know a police officer or a politician. Generation X, most of our listeners, we're well connected. We got a lot of friends. We got a lot of family. Share this link with them, or just tell them about P.A.S.S, because with the great word of Google, you can put the acronym in and go for a little search and find Z, I'm sure. But you can also catch him at Instagram at P.A.S.S is leading the way, all one word, just like it sounds, P.A.S.S, P-A.S.S, leading, L-E-A-D-I-G, the way, T-H-E-W-A-Y. Design tonight. We got to talk to him again. So I'm going to give some layman's terms really to you guys about it. And so he is really just trying to educate us on the fact that the reason a lot of this stuff is happening is because we don't know our rights, and we are being taken advantage of in that. And also we're becoming upset about things because we don't know our rights and how we are to be approached. But what we really didn't know is that it was up to us.
Right.
And Mix always did tell me how he would talk to his older family members when he was younger about policing your own neighborhood, because the police would come and everybody's whole demeanors change, right? Whether criminal or not, doing what they do on the block or not.
Even Auntie got mad. Even Auntie got mad sitting on the porch.
Yeah, there was the relationship was already predetermined for us how to respond, and it's not the right way to respond. Not in your own community. Now, if you somewhere sneaking off, doing something you got no business doing, duck off to the side, but not when you're sitting on your own porch,
right?
And driving down your own street that you pay taxes for the potholes. And I'm just kidding. But
the program's free. The man got information that's free, educational information that we need to know about the laws. That's deep.
Yep, that is. And so we're going to wrap it up, and we really appreciate you listening in, pressing that with that index finger. It's your hip-hop culture specialist.
Hey, hold up. He got me on to something. We should get to know more free edutainment type things for people to learn. There's a lot of stuff we don't know. Do people know that there's laws for guns, and it's laws for, what is it called, the Second Amendment?
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Did I do that right? That is the right to bear arms. That's the Second Amendment.
That's under the same topic, the Amerikan Dream. We have rights. So, we'll look forward to that. We can get that on there.
Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Look, I don't even know the amendments right. How many amendments is it? We need to know this stuff. For real, I'm questioning myself. The right to bear arms, is it the Second Amendment?
It's always accessible.
Or the Fourth.
To look up. Don't worry about those things. But as we're learning, being educated about it, again, repeating, because we learned most of American history. They try to make us memorize a lot of what was going on, but like I said, it wasn't glamorized like it is to be a rapper or to be a drug dealer and all the other things that just seem so much more interesting than the 14th, 5th, or the Second Amendment or the First Amendment. So, again, thank you for tuning in. I mean,
that'll wrap it up, though.
Right.
Like, for real, like, if there anybody listening that has a program that we could be entertained as well as educated on, you know what I'm saying? Leave it in the comment or something. We'll get with you, you know, and we'll bring this back to the full cycle. Is the American dream like a nightmare scene? You tell us.
Dream is like a nightmare scene. It's time to wake up and start living. Gotta be the change. It's time to redeem. It's time to wake up from the American dream. American dream is like a nightmare scene. It's time to wake up and start living. Gotta be the change. It's time to redeem. It's time to wake up from the American dream.
They looting and riding with a twisted corona bug. Living that nightmare. Watch out for them petty thugs. Sounds like date rape. Nah, just wake up some. Wipe the cold out your eye. And tell me why none of them little niggas did nothing to them pigs. But they lost their lives. Yup, and that's what they did. Now we out screaming. I can't breathe. It's protest season, homie, and we can't leave. We've been marching for years, but what did it all mean? Martin Luther, he had him a dream. Was it like Malcolm X? They killed who's next? They the threat, he had his knee on his neck. Now he's mad as hell, but he couldn't breathe. Society looking at us like, how could this be? Enough is enough, yeah, let me breathe. Now let's have a moment for George Floyd, please.
American dream is like a nightmare scene. It's time to wake up and start living. Gotta be the change. It's time to redeem. It's time to wake up from the American dream. American dream is like a nightmare scene. It's time to wake up and start living. Gotta be the change. It's time to redeem. It's time to wake up from the American dream.
It was quiet right before the riot. Silence rang out, gunshots fired. We was acting wild, but they said we tired. We singing to a different tune. How can they assume we just doomed? Give us elbow room, plus some space to explain. We got to this world the same way you came, through the womb, and then it's the tomb. Went from American slave to an Atlanta brave. Yeah, we back from the grave. And if you overstand, my ancestors want their land. Back when business went from hand to hand, it was agreements and talks, not paychecks and clocks. We want justice with a little side of mercy and some hospice. Keep your money, Uncle Sam, cause we got this. And since we couldn't get a record deal, guess we had some time to kill and put together something real to make it out this battlefield. And that's exactly how we feel.
American dream is like a nightmare scene. It's time to wake up and start living. Gotta be the change. It's time to redeem. It's time to wake up from the American dream. American dream is like a nightmare scene. It's time to wake up and start living. Gotta be the change. It's time to redeem. It's time to wake up from the American dream.
But you have to pay attention to what's going on, or else we have a president that's trying to incite a race war. And when the borders are closed, we can't leave. You have people in here that need your help. This is for you, and y'all stand together with the community, with society, to stop. the governmental oppression. Period. We need you. So then march with us. March beside us. You get your people. Y'all march beside us. March beside us.